Listen, the Bulls offense, the shiny new identity that the Bulls wanted to craft offensively that we were coming into the season hyped about, that I was hyped about, it's officially being put to the test. Today we're going to break down why the Chicago Bulls' pace and space attack is completely falling apart, and it's really due to coaching, whether the Bulls need to rethink everything and how they play offense, and we're going to preview the game today against the Cleveland Cavaliers. All that and more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content today, y'all. I want to start off talking about the Chicago Bulls, and I want to start talking off about the Bulls offense, right? There's a lot going wrong with the Chicago Bulls offense right now, especially when you compare it to how we started off the season. We were a much better team offensively to start off the season, and mainly due to not settling for some things that we've consistently settled for. The Chicago Bulls are falling all the way down to 23rd offensively. This is one of the worst offenses that we've had statistically under the entire Billy Donovan era. And keep in mind, there are times where we were a top 12 offense. We've never really been truly elite offensively. I think we were closest to it last year, at the end of last year, and at the beginning of this year. But of course, because there were small sample sizes, you really can't say too much about it, right? The Chicago Bulls rank 23rd offensively right now. And I think we talked a lot about trades and the identity of the team and all that type of thing. I want to get back to basketball in this episode, right? And mainly because we play a basketball game today, and I want to talk about it, right? The Bulls have completely transformed their offense in the last two seasons, right? When you look at how the Chicago Bulls were under the Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and Nikola Vucevic era in that era, right? They were a team with more of a mid-range heavy attack, right? And then we moved to a space and pace three-point heavy attack last season, which, had its mixed bag at times with, I think after the Zach LaVine trade, our diet of three-pointers went down quite considerably, right? But now I want to be clear here. The Bulls' change last season actually paid off. When you look at how the Bulls finished last season, the fact that, we won 39 wins, didn't drop down from the season before that. But then when you start looking at the advanced analytics for the Chicago Bulls, the offense wasn't necessarily strong. They put up points and they put up shots, right? But despite putting up the sixth most points in the game and ranking second in pace, the Chicago Bulls are only 20th offensively. And that's just not good, right? So, that's where it goes to efficiency, right? Like, you can put up points, and that's perfectly fine, but how you put up points matters. And when you aren't efficient in putting up points, all you're doing is gaining really more possessions without it really meaning something, right? Now, they were 13th in true shooting last season as well, which, okay, cool. The Bulls last year tried to go to kind of a more modern selection, which the Bulls talked a lot about, is changing their shot profile. They did, and, it is what it is. But the Bulls last season finished 27th in the NBA in restricted field goal shooting percentage. That's not good, right? And then you come into this season, and the Chicago Bulls rank second in pace, which is perfectly fine. They're basically the exact same speed that they were last year. But then you look at the struggles at converting near the rim. The Bulls rank dead last in the NBA in restricted area field goal shooting percentage at 60.5%. And people may say, well, 60% field goal shooting percentage, that's actually really good. It's not. Not when you're talking about just restricted area. That's the closest shot to the basket. Typically, you want to be middle of the pack. You want to be about 60 to 68% there. If you want to be elite, you want to be near the 70% range, right? So the fact that the Bulls do not get to they get to the restricted area, but we're not finishing at a really good rate there, is something that's telling. And I think that that's something that's obvious when you watch the game. You could tell that this is a team that does not get to the paint enough. If you guys watch the game live streams with me, one of the things I scream a lot with this team is get to the fucking paint, right? And this team just doesn't do that consistently, unfortunately, and it's hurt the team quite considerably, right? But then you look at it, three-point shooting, right? Our three-point shooting is bad this season. Unlike last season, when the Chicago Bulls ranked third in the league in three-point makes, and they made up for the inefficiency from three-point range, right? So, even though they and they weren't necessarily wholly efficient, but inefficient, but I think the inefficiency in the restricted area is something that really, when you take that many threes and make them at a decent rate, It is, right? Right now they sit 16th in the NBA. In 3-point shooting percentage, and that's just not good, right? 3-point makes, to have that low of 3-point makes when you take the diet of 3-point shots that the Bulls do, that's bad. Billy Donovan said that 82% of their 3-pointers in the last game against the Pelicans were considered wide open, and they just didn't convert them at a good rate at all, right? So the drop in volume for the Chicago Bulls isn't necessarily there. They're taking about the same. They went from 15.4 makes to 13.8 makes. So the volume isn't necessarily that much different, right? But the fact that we do not convert the number of 3-pointers that we make is very bad. In December so far, Chicago Bulls ranked 22nd in 3-point makes and 29th in 3-point percentage. That's bad. That's bad. That's extremely bad, right? And we are 28th in offensive rating for the month, which drops from 25th where we've been overall the wholly of the season. So at the end of the day, this Bulls offense that once looked like last season, like, oh, it's fresh, it's dynamic, it's more modern. Now it just has turned into chucking. And I said that at points last season, that I called it button mashing offense. That's what this team has defaulted back to, is button mashing offense. We aren't converting near the rim. We're taking a volume of 3-point shots that we should not via our roster and what our profile tells you that we should be. We are not making enough shots that it makes sense to where our shot profile is and how heavily we are leaning 3-pointers. It just doesn't make any sense. We are not efficient enough to do that. And so when you lean in on taking where you're inefficient at, regardless if the shots are considered wide open or not, yes, you should take shots that are considered wide open. Billy Donovan's offense, for what it's worth, it does generate open 3-pointers. But when you're not converting them, it should tell you something about yourself. Between above the break threes and corner threes, 42% of the Chicago Bulls' overall shot profile is at the 3-point line. And the Bulls just aren't converting at enough rate, 34.5%, which is 21st in the NBA and above the break threes. Now, corner threes, they're actually pretty decent at. We're 39.9% at corner threes. That's actually 8th best in the entirety of the NBA. But that's only 12% of our shots. So we're not taking the highly efficient. Where we are efficient at is corner threes. We're taking the lowest percentage of 3-point shots that we're taking are the corner threes. So even if you wanted to take more 3-point shots and say, hey, we want to be this volume 3-point shooting team, we aren't taking the shots that best fit our profile and where we have been the most successful at the 3-pointer in the season. And above the break threes, we're hitting that at 34%. That's not good. That's not good. That's not a good percentage at all. It's not terrible, right? It's not like it's in the 20s, but it's not good. Not for the value, not for that to be 30% of your overall offense. It's just not good enough. The Bulls are only taking 4.7% of their overall shot selection in the mid-range. And that goes to, like, when we talk about the fact that, like, Modest Buzelis has no mid-range game, right? Kobe's going to help with that. I didn't break this number down to see what it's going to be with or without Kobe. I think Kobe's definitely going to help with the mid-range if he stops settling for bad 3-pointers as well. I think he can help with that. But the fact of the matter is the Bulls are only taking 4.7%, less than 5% of their shots are in the mid-range. And I know people are going to say, well, Haize, the NBA doesn't value mid-range shots as much anymore. Yeah, but the Bulls are dead last in that. They are dead last in the NBA in mid-range shot attempts, and we should not be. I'm not saying we need to lead the league in mid-range shots at all, but you need to get that up to about 18 to 16th. That's about where we should rank in the NBA mid-range shots. Per our personnel, we should be taking a lot more mid-range shots, and we're just not. Now, some of that is that the defense knows that we're going to settle for bad threes, and so they pack in the paint because they should, right? And because the Bulls aren't good at all in restricted free, we are 30th in the NBA in field goal percentage in the restricted area. That's dead last in the NBA. That's not good, and only 36% of our offense is coming from that. So the Bulls need to change the offense that we are trying to play. Either we just don't have the personnel to execute it well, or we're just not good at it, whichever way you want to say it at. So we have to really reshape this offense if we're going to want to be better. That's just it, right? If you look at the Bulls and their 5-0 start, right, in October, the thing is their pace was lower. We're actually 8th in the NBA in pace, right? So we weren't just running up and down the court without it making sense. Also, when you look at better restricted area and 3-point shooting percentage, we were 64.7% in the restricted area in that time and 40% from 3-point range because, again, We were slowing down the offense. We weren't looking at the volume of shots. We were more so looking at the quality of shots. So the Bulls need to slow down. I'm not saying that they need to slow down back to early 2000s pace like they were before, but they do need to slow down. There's no point in having the second best pace in the NBA if you're not efficient with it. That's what it has to be. Efficiency and pace has to go together. Otherwise, you're just running up and down the court, taking bad possessions and bad shots. And that's something that has hurt the Chicago Bulls way too much recently, is that we are living and dying by this reputation of playing fast. But right now, it's just not good. The Bulls rank 13th in shot quality in the NBA. Now, that's not horrible, right? And that goes to show that, like, again, that we're creating good shots, but it's difficult to gauge really whether that's due to the quickness, because I don't think you have to be a quick team to generate good shots. We need to slow it down. We are not playing good enough defense to be the fast-paced team that we are. When you look at some of the best and most fast-paced teams in the NBA, they either get steals, they are really good defensive rebounding, they get blocks, those type of things. The Bulls are not doing that enough to dictate a quick and fast-paced team at the rate that we're playing it. So the Bulls need to get that. They need to get back to that. And so if they can slow down, we should see. And we'll see what happens, when it comes down to that. But the Bulls, they got to become a more efficient team. The offense is struggling right now, and they need to be more efficient. And you got to look at players. Of course, Nikola Vucevic doesn't help that at all. He just doesn't. Like, Vuce is on the court. It just doesn't help it at all as far as efficiency. Josh Giddey in the half court has to be better and slow down those turnovers in the half court as well. He has to do that. And we'll see if he can do that, right? But we have to be better and more, and we have to execute better in those areas, and we'll see if the Chicago Bulls can do it. Now, with that said, I do want to talk about this. Like, the season, I've even made titles that the Bulls season is over, right? I want to take a step back from the feeling as a Bulls fan, and for this episode, I want to get back to the analytical nature, and I want to look at numbers, right? So the Bulls right now, of course, over the last 3 years, we've been in the play-in tournament, right? And nobody wants to be in the play, live in perpetuity into the play-in. We don't want to do that, right? The Bulls have 2 games coming up against the Cleveland Cavaliers, 2 games coming up against the Atlanta Hawks. We're 10-15 on the season, and we do have an opportunity to get ourselves right back into the 10th spot in the NBA, right? That's where we've been for a long time. And the question then becomes about, how do you get there? We talked about the offense and how you can currently get there. And I said before and yesterday, I want to take the flip side of the conversation I had yesterday. Yesterday, I focused very heavily on, if the Bulls have another 5-game losing streak, Billy Donovan needs to be out of here around Christmas. And I still stand by that. I want to be clear. I'm not moving off that at all. If we have our third losing streak of 5 games or more, if we have our third one of those, this, again, before 30 game mark, what would be right around the 30 game mark of the season, Billy Donovan got to go. Now, I don't trust that they will, but Billy Donovan has to go. But these next 2 series should tell a lot about, again, this team. And at this point, I've said it already, you don't get no more resets. This is where you are until you prove otherwise. This is where you are. Now, the Bulls are not completely out of it. And we know that this is a team, as much as people want to now try to look at this team and say, oh, well, the Bulls are tanking. They aren't tanking. That's the sad part about this. If we were trying to tank, it'd be a completely different outlook on this team. But this is a team that still wants to win basketball games, right? And so they have an opportunity here now against the Cleveland Cavaliers team that right now is struggling. Now, they're 4-6 in their last 10, but even throughout those struggles, they're playing much better than the Chicago Bulls. We're not even gonna play like the Bulls, like they're anywhere near the Bulls. They're just not, right? But this is a team that does not have its kind of momentum, and we'll preview that game specifically. The Atlanta Hawks, they have their new triple-double machine in Jalen Johnson, who's absolutely been having a great season now as a focal point of that Atlanta Hawks team. These next 4 games against teams that, are of course playoff teams. They are competing for playoffs. They are better than the Chicago Bulls, but these are 2 teams that are very beatable. You have 4 games against these teams. Can you win the week? Right? That's to go back to that old adage of mine. Can you win the week? That's what this season really becomes about. How many weeks can you win? And, we'll see what happens with that. And again, the Bulls do own their own first-round pick. If the Bulls can't pull themselves out of the depths of hell, guess what? Heads should roll, because we have 7 players with expiring contracts. And then on top of that, you get a great lottery pick in what is supposed to be a deep and very good draft. And that's all fine and dandy, right? And I think when you look at this over this next stretch for the Bulls between now, and if you want to extend this and say to the end of the calendar year here, it breeds a lot of decisions that have to be made by the front office and as far as choosing a direction. And it sucks because, once again, we're talking about choosing a direction for a franchise that has been, quote unquote, choosing a direction for the better part of 5 years. And we still have not settled in on the direction yet. So we'll see what ends up coming out of this team and if they can pull themselves out of it. I to be honest with you, I don't expect it. And it's hard for me to expect anything like that while this team is playing with the lack of heart, dedication, and drive that they've been playing with. They have been playing like a bunch of bitches. And until that stops, the Bulls are going to stay here. And that's just going to be the thing. They aren't going to go anywhere until they actually change what's here, right? And that's playing with actual heart. And if they can change that tonight against the Cleveland Cavaliers, that's going to be a big step, right? So to end the show, last topic, previewing the game tonight against the Cavs. This is a team that has had a disappointing season. Their fan base is disappointed. Their expectations are disappointed, and that is because they have championship aspirations. Where the Cavs are right now, let's make no mistake about it. Wouldn't you love to have the Cleveland Cavaliers record if you're a Chicago Bulls fan right now? Wouldn't you love to be able to say be at 15-12 above 500? We'd settle for that, right? So it goes to show how much perception really does matter to the record, because you ask Cavs fans, they are completely disappointed, and they should be. This is a team that spent a lot of money to lock in its core, has a huge salary cap bill, and is not getting the results based off the championship aspirations and expectations that this team had for themselves. And that's fair enough. I would love to be able to have championship aspirations for our team, but Jesus Christ, we're nowhere near that, right? So the Cavs sit right now at 7th in the Eastern Conference. You got teams like the Detroit Pistons, Knicks, Raptors, Celtics, Orlando Magic, and Philadelphia 76ers all above the Cavs. Who would have thought that coming into this season, right? So the Cavs are 4-6 in their last 10. Evan Mobley is going to be out this game, and he's a very big part of their defensive identity, but the Bulls cannot take this one lightly at all. When you look at this, despite the slow start for the Cavs still rank in the middle of the pack offensively and defensively. They have the 9th best defense in the league on the season and 11th best offense on the season. Now, when you take that and look at their last 10 games, though, they're 15th defensively and 13th offensively. So still, middle of the pack of each, and you can't ignore that. This is a team that, even at being 4-6 in their last 10, don't overlook them, right? So what and how they play is going to be the thing that really makes it tough for the Bulls, right? This is a solid rebounding team, especially offensively. They're the 10th best offensive rebounding team in the league. We know how, crashing the boards has hurt the Chicago Bulls, and it's allowed teams to get back in games even when the Bulls are able to get a lead. And you got to watch out for this. Now, it's going to take a bit of a hit with Evan Mobley being out. They're also missing Max Strus for what that's worth. But this team and what they do offensively, the Bulls cannot overlook that at all. And the defense is going to have to be on its P's and Q's for this team. Donovan Mitchell kills the Chicago Bulls more times than not. And so because of that, you can't ignore that at all. The Bulls defense is going to have its hands completely full with this Cleveland Cavaliers team. Because they get to the free throw line a lot, right? Not the best free throw shooting team in the league, but their free throw rate is top half of the league, 13th, right? So you got to look out for that. Also, when you look at it as well, with the offensive rebounds, but also three-point rate. This team takes the 3rd most three-pointers in the entirety of the NBA on the season. And we know how the Bulls have struggled to defend the three-point line since their 6-1 start, right? Three-point shooting has completely killed the Chicago Bulls on teams. So offensive rebounding and three-point shooting, this could be one of those games where even if they miss their initial three-pointer and the Bulls can't get a defensive rebound, we can see the Cavs get offensive rebounds and kick it back out to open threes because the Bulls defense is going to collapse. And so that's something that this Bulls defense is going to have to really, really watch out for. But the offense is going to have its hands full too. This Cavs team is top 10 in both steals and blocks on the season. Steal percentage and block percentage. So what that means is that A, they're going to be playing the passing lanes. We know the Bulls like to move the ball around. And B, even if the Bulls do try to get to the rim more, they're going to have a difficult going. Now, those numbers are going to take a bit of a hit without Evan Mobley being on the court. Want to be clear there. It's going to take a bit of a hit there. And so there's just no way around that. But you still got to watch out for this team. And if they get steals and get out in transition against you, and with the free throws and offensive rebounding, that's going to hurt you. They're 4th best in turnover percentage. So while they force steals, they don't turn the ball over very often. This is an elite team. They're also 11th in the league as far as assists percentage as well. The Bulls are going to have to be on their P's and Q's in this one. The Cavs are struggling, but they're not Bulls struggling. So if the Bulls are going to want to win in this game, they're going to have to come out and set the defensive energy very, very early. They are going to have that energy and that focus defensively and the communication defensively very early on in this game. Do I expect them to have it? Fuck no, because we haven't seen them do it. But that's what they're going to need to have if they're going to want to get this game. And if they get lazy and they allow for the Cavs on defense to get a bunch of turnovers and blocks against them, they're going to get cooked. They're going to get handled. They're going to get handled handedly at that and very early in this game. This could be a game where the Bulls are out of it at the start, at the onset. And so the Bulls want to avoid that. They're going to have to be very focused coming into this game. Will they have it? I have my doubts. I have my concerns, and we'll see what they're able to do. But I want to hear from you guys on this one as well, right? How do you guys feel about the Bulls' chances? How do you guys feel about what I talked about with the offense of the Chicago Bulls today as well, and how the Bulls just are doing things that numbers-wise look good, but they're just not efficient in it, and they need to change some things. But that's going to do it for today's episode. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well, hit that notification bell as well. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Always want to hear how you guys feel about everything going on with the Chicago Bulls. But you can follow us at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, stay safe, go Bulls, and always see red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.